Hey, listen up. All of my workforce friends out there, whether you're ranchers, farmers, or you just need a pair of good leather gloves, look no further than Bare Knuckles. The best leather gloves ever made, featuring a patent design crafted for natural curve of the fingers. These gloves deliver a perfect fit, superior protection, and all-day comfort. Made from premium leather, right now get an exclusive 15% off, and you can find that at buybareknuckles.com. But make sure you use our code INFOGO at checkout. You can find that link in the show notes. Upgrade your hands, and remember, every purchase, well, it supports the show. So thank you.
If you love unforgettable treats, you've got to try Molly B's Gourmet Cookies. These aren't your average cookies. Molly B's brings bold, artisan crafted cookies straight to your pantry. We're talking chocolate, cherry, and amaretto and be cordial. Earl Grey, lavender, white chocolate, and lemon glaze in the tea. Even maple, bacon, whiskey, and white chocolate in the Boss Man. Founded by a single mom from Alaska, Molly Bees has become a national sensation. You get 10% off any product using our code INFOGO at mollybees.com. Find the link in the show notes.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm William,
And I'm Kat.
and that makes this a dash of info.
Little things you want to know.
So, Kat, what if I told you that there once was a time when oxygen almost killed life on Earth?
What? You mean the fine balance between life sustaining and life ending? Teetering on the life ending portion?
I love how you did that. Imagine breathing the air around you, but it's almost killing everything alive. There's no asteroids, no volcanoes, just a gas silently spreading through the planet's atmosphere. And that's exactly what happened about 2.4 billion years ago. And that's billion with a B.
So the culprit was, well, oxygen, a gas that today keeps us alive. But back then, it was toxic to almost all life on Earth. Early microbes lived without oxygen and couldn't even survive in its presence.
So for billions of years, Earth's oceans were filled with simple anaerobic microbes thriving in an oxygen-free world. Then came the revolutionary newcomer, cyanobacteria microbes that, well, they could use sunlight to make food. And their waste, well, it produced, you guessed it, oxygen.
Over millions of years, oxygen built up in the oceans and atmosphere. So what we see as the breath of life became Earth's first great poison. It triggered mass die-offs, rusted the oceans, and froze the planet.
So picture Earth more than 3 billion years ago. It's a completely alien world than what you know today. The sky wasn't blue. It literally had a hazy orange tint filled with gases like methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide. There was no oxygen to breathe, no ozone layer to block the sun's radiation, and lightning flashed through thick clouds, volcanoes erupted consistently, and the surface, it simmered with energy.
So you're telling me it looked like a game of Fallout?
Or every alien world you ever saw in Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah. What's the other one? What's the other Mad Max kind of?
Yeah, Mad Maxi. Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Chronicles of Riddick?
Yeah, definitely Chronicles of Riddick.
In any case, we could go on and on about the sci-fi. But despite the chaos, life had already found a way. The first organisms were tiny microbes living in the ocean. They were protected from harsh ultraviolet light. They didn't need oxygen. In fact, they couldn't survive it. So these anaerobic microbes use simple chemical reactions to live, feeding on compounds like hydrogen, sulfur, and iron. They were the original chemists of the planet, turning raw elements into energy.
And then what about those alien oceans? So the oceans themselves were nothing like today's blue waters. They were greenish, murky, and rich with dissolved iron. It sounds like a really fun place not to visit. Without oxygen, iron, well, it didn't rust. It stayed dissolved, giving sea a metallic hue. But beneath the surface, well, mats of microbes clung to rocks and shallow seabeds, forming slimy layers called stromatolites. And these were some of the earliest evidence of life still visible in ancient rocks today.
In these early times, photosynthesis didn't exist yet, so life's energy came from chemical reactions deep in the ocean, near hydrothermal vents, where scalding water mixed with minerals from the crust. It was a dark, hidden ecosystem, thriving without light, oxygen, or plants. And this was a planet before breath, where every living thing existed in a delicate chemical balance.
But that balance wouldn't last forever. Somewhere in those shallow seas, a new kind of microbe appeared, one that didn't just take from the environment. It used sunlight. It created its own food, and it released something that would change the planet forever: oxygen. And I say before we go any further into the great innovators, so we take a small break.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Meet Savoristo. They have premium craft decaf and half calf coffee with bold, rich flavor. Made from high altitude, hand picked Arabica beans and naturally decaffeinated with water or sugarcane processes, and there's no harsh chemicals.
But if you think chocolate, caramel, citrus, even bourbon pecan, and mint and mocha, it's small batch roasted, literally so good, customers call it the best decaf they've ever tried.
Better sleep, less anxiety, all the flavor. Use our code INFOGO to get 25% off at checkout at savorista.com. You can also find that link in the show notes. Hey, William, do you love craft beer?
Yes, I do. We
If you're
could,
looking for the perfect gift for a beer lover or just want to show off your brewery pride, the Harpoon Shop has something you won't find anywhere else.
and here's something special just for our listeners. You can save 25% off just by using our code INFOGO at checkout. You can find that link in the show notes.
Now that we're back, we have a new kind of life that appears. So, around 2.7 billion years ago, in the calm shadows of ancient seas, something revolutionary emerged. It was a microbe that learned to harvest sunlight. These were called cyanobacteria. They were tiny, but their invention would reshape the planet, and that was photosynthesis.
Unlike the earlier microbes that fed on chemical reactions, cyanobacteria, well, it used light to create energy. They took in carbon dioxide and water, and from those simple ingredients, they produced sugar for food and oxygen as a waste product. To them, oxygen was just trash, something to get rid of. But the rest of the planet, that waste was about to become world changing.
At first, the oxygen they produced didn't make it into the air. It immediately reacted with things in the oceans, especially with dissolved iron. The oxygen rusted the iron, forming solid iron oxides that sank to the seafloor. And over millions of years, these reactions built up thick layers of banded iron formations. So the stripped, iron rich rocks that miners still dig up today, that was those. Each layer is a record of oxygen production, a geological diary of life's first experiment with air.
I like how you did that. Cyanobacteria didn't just float around aimlessly, right? They built microbial mats, thick layers of living cells that grew on coastal rocks and tidal flats. And as the upper layers performed photosynthesis, the lower layers of these microbial mats, they fed off the chemical leftover. These mats created the stromatolites, dome-shaped fossil structures that still form in parts of the world today, like Shark Bay, Australia. And stromatolites are living monuments to the moment life learned to use sunlight.
For millions of years, oxygen built up silently, molecule by molecule, and the oceans began to change. Less iron, clearer water, and different chemistry. And as the oceans absorbed more oxygen, it began to leak into the atmosphere. What started as a slow chemical trickle would soon become a tidal wave. And for the first time in Earth's history, the planet's air began to contain oxygen. And for almost every living thing that had existed up until that point, that was bad news.
The chemistry of a planet transforming, right? Because cyanobacteria kept releasing oxygen. The oceans, once dark green and metallic, well, they began to change. That oxygen didn't float freely for long. It immediately sought out something to react with. And the oceans, well, they were full of one of the most perfect targets, iron.
Early oceans were packed with dissolved iron because there was no oxygen to rust it. So, once oxygen entered the picture, a chemical chain reaction began. Oxygen bound to the iron, forming iron oxide, and the same reddish rust that coats old metal today. Well, these particles clumped together and slowly sank through the water like tiny flakes of rust colored snow, settling layer upon layer onto the seafloor.
And over millions of years, this process, well, it created vast deposits of iron-rich rock known as banded iron formations. They look like strip stone, altering layers of dark iron oxides and lighter colored silica. And these bands are the fossil fingerprints of oxygen's arrival, physical proof of the first great chemical war between life and the planet itself. So many of the world's major iron mines in places like Australia, Canada, and Minnesota, well, they come from these ancient layers formed billions of years ago during the Great Oxidation Event.
The ocean's transformation wasn't just cosmetic. As the iron settled out, the once green seas slowly turned clearer and bluer. The chemistry of the water shifted. Elements that had been stable for eons began reacting differently, creating new minerals and altering nutrient cycles. The very crust of the planet began to oxidize. Earth itself was literally rusting from the inside out.
So imagine standing on the coast of that ancient world, the water stained reddish brown, shimmering under a hazy orange sky. Well, you would be witnessing one of the most dramatic makeovers in planetary history. The planet was, in essence, detoxifying, but for most life, this new clean air was poison.
As oxygen spread through the oceans and began leaking into the atmosphere, it didn't just change the chemistry of life, it changed the chemistry of the air itself. So, before the Great Oxidation, Earth's atmosphere was filled with methane, a powerful greenhouse gas produced by microbes. And methane helped trap heat from the sun, keeping the planet warm even though the sun was fainter billions of years ago.
And I got a little factoid. While we're out searching for life on other planets, the one thing that we look for is methane.
Makes sense?
Yep. But oxygen and methane are mortal enemies in the chemical world. When they meet, they react, forming carbon dioxide and water vapor. That might sound harmless, but methane traps heat about 20 times more effectively than carbon dioxide. So, as oxygen levels rose, methane levels plummeted, and Earth's natural blanket, well, it began to thin.
Without enough greenhouse gases, the planet began to lose heat. Temperatures dropped. Ice crept from the poles towards the equator, and at some point, it may have reached a tipping point when sunlight reflected off expanding ice sheets faster than the planet could absorb heat. The result was a runaway freeze, possibly the most extreme in Earth's history. Many scientists believe the planet became a snowball Earth, its oceans frozen solid from pole to pole for millions of years.
Have you ever seen this image of the snowball Earth?
Yes,
It looks eerie.
it does.
But picture it, a silent, glittering planet completely encased in ice. The seas trapped beneath miles of frozen surface, the air thin and frigid. From space, Earth might have looked like a giant marble of frost or a big old snowball reflecting sunlight back into that void. It's one of the most haunting images in planetary history. Life's greatest triumph, oxygen, had nearly turned the entire planet into a frozen tomb.
I believe there's some other sci-fi movies about this too, like what is it, Independence Day?
The day after tomorrow.
Hey, that one too, yeah. But life didn't just vanish. In cracks beneath the ice around volcanic vents, the geothermal hot springs, which are small pockets of warmth, endured. Microbes clung to survival, feeding on the remaining chemical energy in these refuges. And these survivors were the ancestors of everything that came after, proof that even in the harshest conditions, life is astonishingly resilient.
I mean, there's so much different life. You in the Mariana Trench, volcanoes.
Hmm.
I mean, it just endures everywhere. In the frozen lakes underneath Antarctica.
Right. I was going to say, there is life everywhere.
Yeah, but eventually volcanic eruptions released enough carbon dioxide to trap heat again. And the planet, well, it slowly began to warm. And after millions of years, the ice retreated. As Earth thawed, well, oxygen continued to accumulate, setting the stage for a new kind of biosphere, one that could finally use oxygen to its advantage.
So, the Great Oxidation Event was both a catastrophe and a catalyst. It nearly froze the world solid, but it also cleared the way for the evolution of complex life. As Earth thawed from its icy grip, the survivors emerged into the transformed world. The oceans were clearer, the air had traces of oxygen, and the environment that once poisoned life now offered a new opportunity. The Great Oxidation Event had changed the rules, and those who could adapt to this new chemistry would shape the future of life itself.
So, for early anaerobic microbes, oxygen had been toxic. But for a few lineages, well, they discovered something remarkable. With the right internal machinery, oxygen could become a superfuel. By using oxygen in cellular respiration, organisms could extract far more energy from the same food molecules than ever before. So, compared to anaerobic metabolism, oxygen based respiration, well, it produced about 15 times more energy. And that extra energy meant cells could grow larger, build more complex structures, and support more sophisticated life processes.
Over time, this energy advantage allowed for the rise of eukaryotic cells, cells with internal compartments, including a nucleus. Some of these new cells even absorb smaller bacteria that help them process oxygen more efficiently, a partnership that became mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of modern cells. These symbiotic mergers were the building blocks of multicellular life plants, animals, fungi, and eventually, us.
Hmm. So, oxygen didn't just give power to living cells, it also transformed the atmosphere, oceans into stable life supporting systems. And the formation of, well, the ozone layer high in the atmosphere began to shield the planet from deadly ultraviolet radiation. And this really helped allow life to safely expand into new habitats. The oceans, well, they teemed with new oxygen breathing organisms. And over hundreds of millions of years, evolution began experimenting with form, function, and complexity.
What started as a mass extinction, oxygen poisoning the ancient world, had become the spark for biological innovation. Without that catastrophe, there would be no animals, no forests, no humans standing here billions of years later taking a breath of the same gas that once nearly erased life. And the Great Oxidation Event wasn't just a disaster, it was a reset button, one that made complex life possible.
From poison to a power source, from extinction to evolution, oxygen didn't just change Earth's atmosphere, it changed the destiny of life itself. What'd you think? I thought this one was really interesting.
I feel like I just stepped right back into my freshman year science class again. To be fair though, like going through school, it was very much just regurgitating information back on paper. So it was kind of nostalgic, I suppose, to talk about the oxidation event because it is something that just kind of was a bloop bloop into the next section kind of thing for school.
Yeah, and maybe we do a deeper dive into single cell organisms. I don't know. Maybe that's something we can do in the future.
I don't think it's all, but I believe it's most single cell organisms start off as an anus first.
All right, kids, you heard it here first, and that will be a future episode.
You know, if you would like to support this podcast, tell a friend and help get the word out.
If you would like to help us keep the show going, you can do so at Patreon. You can find the link in the show notes.
As always, William and I want to thank you for listening.
Whether you've been with us from day one or just tuned in, we want to say thank you.
Yeah, join the Facebook group at Info on the Go
Over there, you can share with us your show ideas.
or ask us a question.
But whatever you do, make sure you hit that follow button wherever you get your podcast.
Send us a text using the link in the show notes or leave a review.
Leaving that review really does help others find us. You can also email us at,
infoonthegopodcast@gmail.com.
and you can find that link in the show notes. Till next time.
Stay curious.
Every morning starts with a choice. Don't settle for just coffee. Rise up with strong coffee. Meet the world's strongest cup of joe. Strong isn't just a drink, it's a movement. And strong stands for striving to reach our natural greatness.
Born from one simple need to be better. They rebuilt coffee from the ground up, infusing organic coffee with collagen, protein, nootropics, and functional ingredients that fuel your body and sharpen your mind. There's no crash, no compromises, just clean energy, focus, and flavor that fires you up.
Whether you're chasing kids, chasing goals, or chasing greatness, don't just wake up, rise up. Strong coffee, the world's strongest cup of joe, for a world ready to be better.
Use code INFOGO at checkout to save 15%.